Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Requesting you all to please take your seat. Legacy is not merely a measure of what we leave behind. It is only testament to the trust that we build along the way. It is also the foundation on which our future generations will stand, guided by the enduring values and the unwavering integrity that we impart. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable dignitaries, distinguished guests, members of the Anand Rathi Group family, welcome, a very, very warm welcome to all of you to what is going to be an absolutely spectacular evening. My name is Xenia Fernandez, and it is my pleasure to be standing in front of this august gathering. And you will agree with me when I say that it is not every day that all of us meet and be together in the same room under one roof, and I think that is reason enough for all of us to put our hands together in a huge thunderous round of applause. Come on. Each success story begins with a vision. And for the Anand Rathi Group, it all began almost 30 years ago when a dream took flight. Tonight we celebrate the trust that we've built with our clients, our partners, our stakeholders, but most importantly, with our community. So ladies and gentlemen, let's begin this very, very memorable evening like we do it in our country by invoking the blessings of the Almighty, or whichever it is, the higher power that you believe in. In this case, we would like to invoke the blessings of art, of nature, and of knowledge, and of course the God of new beginnings. I'd like to invite on stage Ms. Rita Bandhopadhyay ji to please join me to lead us into the Ganesh and the Saraswati Vandana.
Good evening. I hope I'm heard properly. Thank you. Now my renditions are Ganesh, a part of Ganesh Pancharatna Rastotram and Saraswati Mantram. Bakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryesu Sarvada. Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Pahi Mam. Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Rakshamam. Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Pahi Mam. Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Rakshamam. Mudakarattamodakam sada vimukti sadhakam kaladharavatan sakang vilasilukarakshakam anayakai kanayakai vinashitai vadaittakam natashubhashunasakam namami tam vinayakam namami tvam vinayakam namami tam vinayakam. Ya kundendu tushadhara dhabala ya shubhrabhastra श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवै सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा शुक्लं ब्रह्म विचारसारा परमा आद्यं जगद्व्यापिनीं वीणा पुस्तकधारिणीम् अभयदां जाड्यन्धकारपहां हस्ते स्फटिकमालिकां विदधतीं पद्मासने संस्थितां वन्दे तां परमेश्वरीं भगवतीं बुद्धिप्रदां शारदा नमस्ते शारदे देवी सरस्वती मतिप्रदे वसतं मम जिह्वाग्रे सर्वविद्याप्रदा भव नमस्ते शारदे देवी सरस्वती मतिप्रदे वसत्वं मम जिह्वाग्रे सर्वविद्याप्रदा भव नमस्ते शारदे देवी सरस्वती मतिप्रदे वसत्वं मम जिह्वाग्रे सर्वविद्याप्रदा भव नमस्ते थैंक यू
Rita ji, thank you so much for helping us begin this grand evening on a very, very meaningful and musical note. Thank you very much. Be fearless in the pursuit of what lights your soul on fire. Ladies and gentlemen, these are very, very popular words which we may have heard time and again, but it is today my absolute honor to invite on stage the one who truly embodies these words. Today we stand here all because of his entrepreneurial spirit, integrity, and the values he instilled in each member of the Anand Rathi Group family. Whether it was his illustrious and fruitful career with the Aditya Birla Group, where he shaped the flagship cement business, or the rapid expansion of the BSE online trading system as the president of BSE that speaks volumes of his far-sightedness, he has forged a legacy of excellence and of success. Please join me in welcoming on stage to address us all, not just the founder, but also the soul of the Anand Rathi Group, Mr. Anand Rathi.
Thank you and good evening to all of you. Respected Sri Subhasji Mundra, Sri Dineshji Khara is just expected in few minutes. My friend over decades, Aditya Puri, and the very gracious Madam Smiley Anita Puri, well-known author, Sri Tamal Bandyopadhyay, distinguished CEOs, managing directors, executive directors. I'm sorry I'm not able to name everyone because I'm very, very happy to see all of my friends here today, various senior management of various institutions present here, ladies and gentlemen, and the members of Anand Rathi family. I have really great pleasure in welcoming you all to this event. I, along with Mr. Pradeep Gupta, my son-in-law, we started this business in mid-1994. Today marks the important occasion of kicking off the 30th year of our group journey. We at Anand Rathi Group feel that entrepreneurship, family culture, and ethical conduct are the key values on the basis of which our group has been established, and all our initiatives we try to follow these basic principles. I feel that these three basic values of our group aptly describe the India story. New India is all about entrepreneurship. India's age-old motto has been, world is a family, Vasundhaiva Kutumbakam. And lastly, India has always stood for ethical treatment of all entities and countries. Looking back to the last 29 years, I want to share the joy of our achievements, which has been achieved with a lot of contribution of many of you present here. When I decided to start this business, many friends and well-wishers strongly cautioned me against leaving an excellent corporate job as CEO of Indian Rayon and plunge into, at that time called the chaotic world of the stockbroking. लोगों ने कहा भाई CEO से दलाल बन जाओगे, but that's what I prefer to do. I moved from the corner office of Senior President of Indian Rayon to few hundred square feet office close to RBI and close to Bombay Stock Exchange. With just about 20 people, we started. In last 29 years of our existence, I'm glad to say that we have grown to about 4,000 people in the Anand Rathi family. And we have physical presence at over 1,000 locations directly or through our partners. Today, our stockbroking, commodity broking arms in retail, HNI and institutional business are amongst the largest in India. We have the only, I can say with pride, the pure play listed wealth management company in India, which you are aware we listed it in December 21 only. We are the highest, we are the perhaps biggest non-bank, non-aggregate distributor of mutual funds. Our non-banking financial company has been classified as one of the systematically important entities by the Reserve Bank of India. We are one of the fastest growing insurance broking business with a specialization to assist the banking system. Our institutional, our investment banking business is also developing very well. To celebrate our journey, we thought that inviting great successful people in their career and listening to them would motivate us to plan our future goals. We are fortunate to have Sri Mundraji, Sri Dinesh who is Khara Sahab likely to join us, dear Aditya Puri, and noted author Tamal Bandyopadhyay. We have chosen this occasion particularly to talk about these two books, very interesting books. Aditya Nama, written by Smiley Puri, and Roller Coaster, An Affair with Banking by Sri Tamal Bandyopadhyay. And I think these two books gives excellent understanding about the banking and bankers. And hopefully that discussion will really help us to know that. Friends, as you are aware, Sri Mundraji is now the chairman of... Welcome, sir. Kharaji. Welcome, sir. Sorry, we started few minutes then. So we are glad to have Sri Mundraji, who is now the chairman of BSE, and as you all very well know, was Deputy Governor of RBI. During his tenure, he played a pivotal role on issues such as improving financial inclusion, enhancing customer service, addressing the problems of NPAs in the banking system, and very importantly, the introduction of MCLR system, marginal cost of fund-based lending rate. Prior to RBI, he served as one of the most successful chairman and managing director of Bank of Baroda. Please give a big round of applause to welcome Sri Mundraji. Sri Dineshji Khara, a well-known career banker and now presently the chairman of SBI. He has served in several key roles in SBI as Chief General Manager of Mumbai Circle, Managing Director and CEO of Mutual Fund, and Managing Director Global Banking and Subsidiaries at SBI. Under his dynamic leadership, SBI is focused on digital transformation, customer-centric initiatives, expanding its presence both within India and internationally. Friends, you all know that SBI has achieved the highest ever profit of more than 50,000 crores last year under his dynamic leadership. Sir, big applause to you, sir. He made HDFC Bank a global achievement. He has been an exceptionally well-respected and regarded banker. Who doesn't know Aditya Puri? But who knows him better than his partner, Ismaili Puri? Her book is a delight to read, and that book will tell you a lot about the person of Aditya Puri and their journey together. It's our honor to have her talk about him in person here. Aditya, I thought that I know a lot about you through the years of our old friendship of more than 40 years. But after reading the book, I now see you in a different light also. Please give a big round of applause to Aditya, please. Shri Tamal Bandyopadhyay, as I think known to everyone here, is a financial journalist par excellence who assumed various positions in various business publications. He is known for his deep understanding and perspective on the Indian banking and financial sector. He was the designated historian for one of the most iconic private sector bank book written on the HDFC Bank. He also authored numerous best-selling books on issues relating to banking. Friends, I was fortunate to be on the governing board of Bombay Stock Exchange since 1997 and the president of exchange during 1999 to 2001, and was very actively involved in the creation of the online trading system as well as setting up the Central Depository Services Limited. Under the guidance of SEBI, a lot of far-reaching reforms were done during my tenure, including setting up of a trade guarantee fund, very importantly, the dematerialization of shares and online service system. I can with confidence say that the speed and quality of reforms achieved by Indian securities market has no parallel in the world. And now fortunately we have now Mundraji heading the BSE to look for further growth of the exchanges in India. During my tenure, I also had the opportunity to host many high dignitaries, including President Bill Clinton and Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Friends, as you are aware, the Indian economy is really doing very well and today is considered to be the fastest growing economy in the world. We are already grown from 1 trillion economy 10 years back to now 3.5 trillion economy. And I am sure we all agree that in next 25 years, we'll have an economy of more than $25 trillion, if not more. Our group would surely like to keep pace with the growth of the economy and hope to take our group as one of the largest financial services group in India, with all your support and guidance. Friends, all the growth in last 29 years was possible due to hard work and commitment of all my family members and all my employees, and I'm very fortunate to have all my CEOs working for a long time who have really help us grow this company. We are also grateful to our regulators, exchanges, all other. I would once again like to extend a very warm welcome to a very of you. And now surely looking forward to get your blessings, guidance and good wishes in the future as well. Thank you friends and Jai Hind.
Mr. Rathi, thank you so much for talking to us straight from the heart. And on behalf of all of us present in the room, big, big congratulations to you on building an enduring and an impactful heritage. Thank you, sir, once again. And now, without any further ado to take the proceedings forward, it is my utmost pleasure to invite on stage two of Anand Rathi Group's Power Women, who I call architects of change and innovation. When she laid the ground for the success of the commodity and currency trading and forex advisory business, she didn't stop there and went on to set up Ishka Films to satiate her entrepreneurial and creative urges. And this unstoppable force then went on to use her financial expertise to create a path-breaking product, LXME, a platform that helps empower women and their financial growth. Please join me in welcoming on stage Mrs. Preeti Rathi Gupta. Welcome to the stage, and please stay with me because I have to introduce the second power woman as well. Let's welcome another leading lady of the Anand Rathi Group who, after amassing a diverse experience of 12 years in retail banking and equity firms, Bank and Salman Smith Barney, went on to pioneer initiatives which today are the backbone of the Anand Rathi Group's insurance broking business. Please join me in welcoming on stage Mrs. Supriya Rathi. Welcome to the stage, ladies, and over to you.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be amongst all of you this evening, celebrating a milestone in our lives.
But Supriya, today is even more special. While most of our events, ladies and gentlemen, have been formal conversations on finance, business, markets, today we are doing a very exciting, scintillating fireside chat about bankers. Some of you who are seated amongst us.
Before we get our audience to get worried, let's call on stage our distinguished guests, and before that, our moderator for the evening.
Bijoy Editeria. He is the founder of Loudmouth Entertainment, for which he writes and directs plays. Their award-winning plays have been performed in various locations such as Mumbai, Bangalore, New Delhi, Colombo.
But I thought this was a session on bankers.
Well, Bijoy is also a financial journalist, which I waited to mention. He's currently an independent journalist and columnist. In his last role, he was the deputy editor at Informis Media Private Limited and led coverage across regulatory, markets, and economic issues. He tracked developments in banking, parabanking, and RBI, and used to pen the fortnightly column Big Bank Theory. I'm sure you're already thinking of Big Bang Theory, right?
Absolutely.
Over 17 years plus, he has worked with Crystal MarketWire, Newswire 18, Financial Times, DebtWire, and Cogenis. Bijoy, please join us on stage, and we promise to hand over the stage to you in a few minutes.
And now, for our next guest, Shri Tamal Bandyopadhyay. Shri Tamal Bandyopadhyay is an award-winning author and journalist, all of which have been non-fiction books. The Roller Coaster, An Affair with Banking is his 7th book. What this book really is a fly on the wall view into the lives and business of bankers that shaped India over the years, written by Tamal in his unique conversational narrative. Like, for example, when a chairman was not given his due welcome at the airport.
Or, even better, a lift is reserved exclusively for the MD of a bank alone, and the entire floor is cleared as she makes the grand entry.
Moreover, what, for example, did code words such as Gujarati Thali or Punjabi food stand for? What the book is a compilation of little-known, interesting anecdotes on India's money men, their idiosyncrasies, and the circumstances that directed their decisions at work. Let's get a sneak peek into the book. Tamal, please join us on stage.
Our next guest is who else but Mr. Aditya Puri. Mr. Puri, the man who defined the Indian private bank's trajectory, is the former CEO and of HDFC Bank and a visionary leader in the banking industry. Under his 25-year leadership, HDFC became India's highest valued financial institution. Known for his work-life balance, a little bit of which I'm going to talk a little bit in a few seconds, Mr. Puri enjoys diverse hobbies alongside his professional commitments. He now serves as the senior advisor to Carlyle Group. His dedication to societal improvement and professional excellence makes him an inspiring figure in the Indian economic landscape. This introduction was, of course, not needed. All of you seated here know all of this and more about him. The first time, sir, I heard you in a boardroom, the one thing that I took away was that you go home at 5 o'clock. So I came back home and I told my family, Mr. Puri comes back, he goes back home at 5 o'clock. They said he's exceptional. because he's exceptional, of course. But the other thing that I actually also took back, or I was wonderstruck at, was how he drove digitization at HDFC Bank and yet didn't carry a phone himself.
And also, did you know he once sent a senior team to walk his dogs? They had no idea how to go about it. Mr. Puri offered no advice. He just gave them the space to work it out. That was his practical lesson on team building and collaboration. It worked beautifully.
Well, he loves his food. And I think the last couple of times I've met him, we've only spoken about food. And has a checklist of all eating hotspots he must check out or tick off in each city that he travels to. I finally have something in common with you, sir.
Well, he is the quintessential family man. When Amrita, his daughter, was distraught at missing the Ganga Aarti at Rishikesh, in his endearing, personable way, he could convince the priest to redo the Aarti for her benefit.
By the way, how do we know so much and more?
All this and more about Mr. Puri, up close and personal. Fun facts on him, written with candor and affection by his better half, his confidant, his life partner. We'd like to please call upon the stage Smiley Anita Puri. Anita Smiley Puri is the supportive force behind one of the banking industry's most influential figures. Mrs. Puri is the author of Adityanama, which offers an exclusive look into the professional and personal journey of her husband. Known for her positivity and resilience, she has been a pillar of strength and support to Mr. Puri.
Mrs. Puri, I'm making sure that my husband is reading your book, especially the part where you talk about being called Rani and being treated as a queen. So we want to show you a small snippet of what the book is like.
So I'll say it with a song, so I saw coming in. कौन ये आया महफिल में बिजली सी चमकी दिल में. So I'll say it with a song, so I saw coming in. कौन ये आया महफिल में बिजली सी चमकी दिल में.
थोड़ा सा उधर हो जाए, थोड़ा 200. नहीं, he's dying to eat.
You actually don't realize what a lovely life you have and how much you learn. You learn about integrity, you learn about respect for the elders, you learn about hard work, focus, etc.
When do we get off? So, thank you.
Check. Did you guys hear me? Okay. It's lovely to be doing this with so many who I know personally, who I normally would be running around trying to catch them for a comment. And today I'm sitting on stage and y'all are listening to me, so this is a great place to be. But more importantly, I have the best seat in the house because all I have to sit here and do is ask questions, which is what I do for a living anyways. So I'm going to cut out most of the riffraff because we have a very tight schedule and there's a timer out there for me constantly every second. I'm going to just dive in and ask questions about the book and as much about the inspiration behind writing these books, and try and make the best use of our time. Because of the paucity of time, we will not be able to do Q&A, but I'll try and speak on your behalf to these lovely people here. Okay. Tamalda, let me just start with you because you're sitting right next to me. You have defended yourself in the book, and I'm not going to be nice for the next 45 minutes. These guys have already been warned about that. But you have defended yourself in the book saying, I'm not a peeping Tom. But the fact that you had to defend yourself means you actually considered the fact that that is a criticism that would come up during this period. So, are you a gossip? Are you a khabri? Are you a peeping Tom? What was the thought process behind saying that I'm not a peeping Tom?
No, in fact, this book takes you to the banker's kitchen, of course. I would not say bedroom in that conventional sense, but it's about psychology of bankers, which we understand. We need to understand because they deal with money, your money, my money. In no other industry you have both the raw material and the finished product is money. You know, you see there. So I thought it is interesting to how are they, I mean those people who deal with their money, how are they an individual? That's the reason, because my past, immediate previous book, Pandemonium, was very data heavy, lot of research, etc. Of course, I got awarded in the sense it got quite a few awards in India as the best business book of the year. But I thought, let's use the COVID time, apparently lighter bit, but get into this which is extremely important. Yeah, globally there are instances about books on psychology of bankers, but in India I have not come across. So that's it. I'm not a peeping Tom in that sense, but fortunately people trust me, like the banking is all about trust. Writing on banking also is all about trust. Fortunately they trust me, the doors are open to me, so A talks about B, B talks about C, C talks about A. So that's how, and you use your journalistic inclination, whatever you call it, and then that's it. I mean, it's a question of semantics. You want to be a peeping Tom or do you want to be a something else, but that's not important. Important is getting into the psychology of bankers, which I have tried. I don't know whether I have succeeded or failed, but that's it.
And in the book, and just as a corollary to the question, in the book you have mentioned that there are stories that you choose to leave out. So what was the basis on which you will say, okay, this story I can put in there and I can name the person, but there are stories where I don't want to tell the story, or, you know, let's leave out their name.
Yeah, because I have the history of being sued for 200 crore for writing one book, so I did not want to invite any more legal issue. At that point of time, I had a very tough time, so I did not want to. Yes, I know many more stories than what I have written, but those stories I need to substantiate, and it's not exactly as pleasant as these stories I have discussed. So I stayed away from certain stories which can invite those kind of legal issues, etc. And I don't want to face again this 200 crore case, or if you inflation adjust it, it will be now 500 crore case, something like that. That happened in 2014. So that was enough. First in Kolkata High Court, and then I had to move in Supreme Court, all those kind of things there. So I wanted to stay away from all those controversies. That's it. Very simple.
Lovely. Smiley ma'am, if you could just take your mic here. This man has already written 2 books about HDFC Bank. What do you think was left for you to tell? Because I was reading parts of your book and I'm like, oh, this is what happened between those chapters. What do you think was the driving force behind you deciding to write a book after he had actually left the bank?
Yes. So a lot of people wanted to know his personal side, and he, being a very private person, was very apprehensive that I should write this book. But when he saw that it was such a strong latent desire that I want to write something which has not been, published about him, is his, love for the family. He's a prankster at home, or he's a prankster with his grandchild, and his, love for food. And there's so many other things in our 45 years of marriage that I thought I should pen down. So that was the...
But do you think it leaves him very vulnerable because he's not someone who wanted anybody to know any of these things about him?
No.
He left at 5 o'clock or 5:30 and he was out.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So it, but it didn't take much of forcing him that I want to write this book, because he saw that on his 70th birthday I had presented him as a surprise a coffee table book on him, and when he saw that it's such a strong desire, okay, theek hai, aap likh lo, but just pass it through me, pass it by me, so that there's nothing that. But luckily I was really surprised he didn't even cut out one chapter from it, because he thought, oh, this is just a nice, sing-song sort of a life story.
As I mentioned to you when I was talking, I actually knocked off the book sitting like at a hospital bed over 5 hours. So it's that kind of breezy read. But I'll come back to that breezy part. Aditya sir, if you could just take the mic, and I'm going to ask you in your language, kya laddu mila sir? Ye kya laddu mila ye allow karne ke liye? Because you're not someone who would agree if there isn't something there for you.
You're not married?
I'm very much married, sir.
बहुत फर्क है, बैंक में लड्डू चाहिए, इधर लाठी नहीं पड़े तो बहुत है.
But at what point did you think that, you were comfortable with this story going out? Because there's a lot about you as a person, about you, your family, the way you are outside of that bank, which is what, the book says. It's the man behind the bank. So
I never wanted it. If she had given me a choice, the answer would have been a no. See, she advises me what to do. It's still so, but the fact was that she had been mentioning it, and I was saying, look, live a peaceful life. This is India. You've had enough of the limelight. Just relax and let's enjoy ourselves. Why do you want to get into this? And I really didn't think it was so much of a passion inside her, but she carried on and on. And then when you're married 45 years, you know when to say yes for your own benefit.
okay, I'm going to actually ask you another question on this itself. In there, that just comes up in bits and pieces in the book. When did you think you would be comfortable putting out that book about her and what she's contributed to your, to your career? Because you have mentioned that when the world was seeing you being brave and speaking about how HDFC Bank and, everything is going to work out, you were going home and telling her your concerns. So it's as much a book about her as it's about you. So
I think that's a lovely question, in all honesty. She probably deserved more credit than I got. So most of the credit came my way. But like you put it very subtly, the fact of the matter is, while I was saying ra ra ra, the bank was going, mera andar jara pet mein dast laga hua tha. So, but the only person I could come home and cry to was her, and a bit of unreasonable crying. The fact that she didn't divorce me because she's good-natured. But all my problems, I'd come back and tell her. Then you say you shifted 17 homes, like my daughter said when we went to Hong Kong. So I said, look, I've also shifted. She said, what you shifted? You were Mr. Puri there, driver Vichare or whatever came here, now you're Mr. Puri here. And the Chinese driver has come, you have your office, you have your clients. I got to go to school and make a new life. She had to meet new people, understand, pack, make a home that we came back to. And so I would say, I'm not going to write a book. I've worked hard enough. But I would definitely want to acknowledge, and I think most people should acknowledge, that I couldn't have done it without her. She probably deserves more credit. If I actually read the book earlier, the 10% work that I had not delegated, that is writing my speech or my memos, wo bhi main isko de deta, because after reading the book, she's a better communicator than me.
Smiley ma'am, anybody who reads the book, okay, because you have left out a lot of this, like what Amrita, and I know Amrita from college, so a separate connect over there, would think that this is a nice travel love story But there's a lot that's happening there. You've actually mentioned that there are times when your shifts were so soon that you were not even unpacking your boxes. You never actually, you said, when we met, you said you've never actually fully unpacked ever between these places. In that sense, at what point did you consider that people may actually see this book and not get the gist of what your your travels, your troubles actually were during this period, and instead see it as this light-hearted book about this wonderful man here?
I think every corporate wife would have gone through what I went through. I think now we've shifted like 20 homes, and sometimes the shifting would be with catching one wailing child here and trying to feed the other, and at the same time we have to pack away and smile through it and just go to the next place, and didn't know a thing about what I was going to face there, the new people, making new friends, making a new life, seeing that the child is also children are also well settled in their school, and help them also along, because he had no time for that during the day, to see that the children were well settled in the new home and at school, and to see that they have a sort of some life with friends and all. So there was a lot of other things that I think every corporate wife goes through it. But sometimes we were not even unpacked, and we were told to shift from Hong Kong to Malaysia, and just go for 6 months only to New Zealand. Just go for 3 months only to Singapore. These all did take a toll, but luckily the underlying factor, which I must say, is that I loved travel. I just loved to meet new people, and I'm a people's person. So I think that was my plus point, and I'm a very positive person in every situation, which I think really helped me and took me through.
And it helped him also, but
yes, yes, it really helped him in the evening when he would come back, little troubled. So it did help him a lot.
We don't have a lot of time to actually get into every aspect of the book, but I love the fact that his dad said he wanted to come and stay in your house. I thought that was an extremely, extremely nice thing. As someone who stays with parents, that's a blessing that just doesn't come. Very, very nice to hear his, that anecdote. Thank you for sharing that with us. Tamalda, just...
I have to say something about Tamal. So when Tamal came home, we were having a drink, and he said, "What do you think about the book?" I said, "Thank God you covered me only in 2 pages and you didn't catch me with my pants down." And number 2, where all have you been? And I think he's one of the most insightful people as far as the banking industry is concerned. Always candid, always straight, but he will say what he has to.
Lovely.
Thank you.
I don't think Tamalda could have said that about himself, even in private. So lovely. Tamalda, because you've written about, HDFC Bank, and many people used to blame you, saying, you're talking about Aditya Puri, it's not about the bank, it's a book about Aditya Puri. Likewise, you've written many other books about the private sector. In the book, you actually try and address the criticism that people say that you're against PSU banks. How do you address that criticism without also, admitting that there are private sector people who have fallen prey to the personality of cult, which maybe all of us as, financial journalists have contributed to? So in terms of the criticism about being anti-PSU banks and about, fueling this personality cult around bankers, we are blamed for it. What's your response to this?
No, I mean, I'm not very sure that exists anymore, because I've done a couple of my columns on the what's happening in the public sector banking and the HR front very recently, and I got millions of not lakhs, actually literally million plus response from people, and they said I have real empathy, etc. That's a separate story. As far as HDFC Bank book is concerned, there are tweeters that how many millions I got from this gentleman for writing the book, and trust you me, I think some chole bhatura and tea or coffee, That's what I could get. Now, of course, after retirement, I frequent his house where he serves drink on his own. That's a separate story. And every 15 minutes, somebody comes and with all kind of choices, non-veg, irrespective of the time of the day. That happens, but that's post-retirement. But when he was there, and when I was writing the book, I said, beyond tea and some chole bhatura, I did not get anything. In fact, once I took him out for dinner once in a 5-star restaurant. So he chose a place to drink first. And then after that he said, chalo. I said, where? For food? I said, aren't we going to have food here? He said, no, food is a different restaurant within the same 5-star hotels. So that's Aditya Puri. So he's a character. And coming back to you again, as I said, these are the money managers. And again, globally, in no other business you will find the business is identified by the CEO as much as in banking. You know, Jimmy Dimon, you name it, Aditya Puri in India or something. So in private sector, because of the longer tenure of this, they get identified, and good, bad, ugly, everything here. But you know more about them than the private sector. Like Mr. Dinesh Khara is sitting here, and incidentally he grilled me on my book in Kolkata, and he was so gracious enough to accept the invitation, and he flew down to Kolkata to discuss my book. Thank you, Khara Sahab. But as I said, Dinesh Khara now, State Bank of India crossed 50,000 crore, first time ever. It is announcement and all over the people are there now. So that's a landmark thing happened. Otherwise, typically, irrespective of sit on a chair, you can make the bank worse by 10-15%. Not more than that, because the system and everything is in place. The discipline is different. Where it's not the personality driven. It's actually how well you carry your people and how you can fine tune the system and move it forward. So then you don't get the kind of appreciation you deserve to get. Because everybody thinks that it's the system that's actually in play. Whereas in private sector, it's the person who decides, much bigger than the system. Now, whether it's Aditya Puri's laddu kidhar hai, or for some ladies, the moment she's in the 5-kilometer vicinity, on walkie-talkie, all the security people are saying, "Madam is coming, madam is coming." And everything is clear off, and then she walks in and all. So, more important, a person is more important than the system. So that's the basic difference. So I don't get much of color in public sector. The color is there. This is Department of Financial Supervision of Finance Ministry. If Mr. Khara leaves his office at 5:30 and he does it continuously, I'm sure there will be call from Delhi that is Mr. Khara is not keeping well. Why is he leaving at 5:30? Whereas in private sector, if you are leaving at 5:30, you can afford to say others who are sticking, they are inefficient, I am efficient. So that's the thing, because government ownership, as we speak, Reserve Bank of India addressed the boards of public sector and private sector in the past 2 weeks. I think one of the issues which is not discussed in media, but the public sector bankers and the board raised, the overarching theme of the government, what the government does. Dr. Reddy used to call it joint family approach. So if it's a joint family, government, this thing and all, so again, they don't, for a writers, there are too many interesting characters. And you tend to look at some of the negative parts to get the characters out of them, which the book also does. I don't want to take much time unless you ask me. Thank you.
No, I don't have the time to ask him a question on it, even though I have written, there's a word I have written in my notes saying sleep. This man went to interview someone, and eventually he realized that his tape had run out because he had gone to sleep. But he also realized the other person who he was interviewing had also gone to sleep. So what had happened is the quality of that conversation must have been so scintillating that that person slept off first, then Tamalda slept off, then Tamalda woke up first. So that person woke up later. So he doesn't realize Tamalda slept. Anyways, I don't want to get into the rest of the details. Please do read the book. Again, going back to Smiley ma'am, why did you decide to have him wearing those boxing gloves, the gloves for the cover, and how did you convince him to do that?
So I really think that it's so apt, this cover. He just bounces back, he takes the knocks and he bounces back. And in the morning I would see in the papers that such a big fiasco had happened yesterday at Citibank or at HDFC Bank, and not a word. In the evening I take the boxing gloves and I literally make sure that I I'm the boss in the house. But he really is a boxer, fighter, and he takes the knocks and he jumps back. And I would ask him, I said, why didn't you tell me yesterday in the evening that there was so much of a problem, and you must have been so tense and stressed. But he really takes the knocks well.
Lovely. As you may have, if you missed it, she said, I wear the gloves at home. And if you read the book, you will realize that that's possibly extremely true for the way I actually went to their house, and that's how the relationship pans out. Okay? Altipuri sir, if you could just take your mic. In the book, there is a lot of talk about how you got stuff done, taskmasters, they mentioned the whole thing about how you made people walk the dogs. But also there are nice moments where you realize that you created something much bigger. There was a very touching anecdote there about, I think, the visit to Shillong and a man walking up to you. If you could just share that story, because I think it is, like, she's captured it beautifully because she was there. But if you could just share that story, because it says a lot about what we can do with an organization.
I think we'll have to move back. I think we'll have to move back a bit. I am if you look back, I was the public face of HDFC Bank. But what made HDFC Bank was 2 lakh people who believed they were the bank. They thought they were a part of the family. They took pride in moving it. If I said something, they turned their upside down. And naturally we built pride. And a lot of them then started feeling the impact that we owe to the bank owes to us, together we will make music. And a lot of the guys came from middle class backgrounds, including me. And what happened was that as they grew, naturally they would come and thank me. They say, you gave me this. I said, no, I don't, as Kamal says, I don't give charity. You produced the results, the cumulative effort of what I got was more than you, but you deserve your share. So when we went to Shillong, I said, and we used to go, and a lot of places we went as a family because we'd call the family, and sometimes they would tell her stuff they wouldn't even tell me. And I asked this guy at the end, and I said, tell me what do you like about HDFC Bank, and what will it take for someone to hire you? He said, no sir, I won't go anywhere. When I was in Shillong and I started, nobody recognized me. Today you've come, I'm called to all the parties, people want to get their daughters married to me, and I'm somebody. And I think if 2 lakh people can feel that, it's a hell of an achievement.
He actually produced the HDFC Bank card, and he held this out to the party, to all the staff, the HDFC Bank staff that were there, and he said, this is what has brought me respect in this Shillong. I was never invited, me and my family were never invited anywhere. And now we are invited everywhere first, and then the rest of the people are invited. And it's all because of this card, this HDFC Bank card. I just, think that this is what has given us all the respect in the, society.
Lovely. Thank you for that. Tamalda, when I was reading the book, and because I also tracked the sector a little bit, I could identify a lot of the people that you're not naming, especially when you speak about the Nexus, when you spoke about the Gujarati Thalis, when you spoke about some of the Delhi broker, the Bombay broker, the guy who was arrested, the guy who's come back. That guy is very much back in circulation, and he's attending events and sponsoring events and everything. At any point, do you consider the fact that the fact that you are now writing about it in a book and this is going to stay for posterity, it would impact how relations work with you. Would it impact how people speak to you? Would they be a lot more guarded? Do you consider that when you're writing anecdotes like this?
No, I think, I mean, it sounds very cliche, but if you have the basic honesty and if you are doing your job, it does not come on the way of relationship. And absolutely not. I'm just giving you a live example. Post-Lehman crisis, India's a very large private bank borrowed money from a public sector bank, and the money was borrowed at exorbitant rate from overseas. I got to know this without naming the bank. I wrote that, I think at 20% at that point of time. This is within 10 days of Lehman collapse. And this particular bank had some asset liability mismatch. So it was a big story. Next morning, when the story appeared, every business channel and the global, like BBC, etc., they picked up the story, and etc., etc. It happened. They interviewed me also. Of course, I stuck to it without naming the bank, but people are not fools. They could understand the financial sector, which bank I am talking about. And finance minister called up the MD of the bank to come on television channel and soothe the frayed nerves of investors, etc., etc. I think the bank stock dropped 33% or something like that. Trust you me, just 1.5 months down the line, the newspaper where I was working for their annual banking conclave, I invited the CEO and MD of that particular bank, and we were as friendly as ever on the days. So because this person and the bank knew that I was not playing in the hands of any vested interest. And that's what I'm saying, that banking is a business of trust, and you yourself is a bank reporter, you're saying, writing on banks also is a question of trust. If you are trusted, if there is no vested interest, like as I said, there are tweeters saying that how many millions I made by writing 2 books. My publisher Akash is here, he has written, I don't know how many, I made few lakhs, and trust you me, unless I'm not going to name, unless you are a writer of that genre, by writing non-fiction you don't make money. Probably a month's salary you get by writing a book. That's all. Publisher is sitting here. So as I said, even in the business also, as long as they're convinced about your ethics and your governance as an individual level, that you have no vested interest to do that. Had it has happened that I have taken I am going short on that particular bank and written that story and etc., etc., that's a separate story. But it's true. Whatever I wrote, everything was true, even though it's a very unpleasant truth. It had affected the bank stock on that day, more than 33% it dropped. But within 6 weeks, on my annual banking conclave, the MD or CEO of the bank was present, and there was not iota of disrespect for each other and the lack of affection and love and respect for each other. So that's it. At the end of the day, I think we need to be like the bankers need to care for governance and ethics and integrity. As a writer in financial sector, because based on what we write, people lose money and make money, we have to be absolutely ethical. There is no scope for compromising on governance and ethics. As long as I can convince them, the other side, I don't see any problem whatsoever. I have not spoiled any relationship with anybody, I can tell you.
Thank you. I should take a few notes on how not to spoil my relationships when I'm doing my reporting. But anyways, Smiley ma'am, yeah. When I was reading the book, it was going in a certain flow. And I was wondering at any point whether you would speak about the heart issue that happened, because he was still active with the bank at that point of time. But when I read what you have written, which is why I was so surprised he let you publish, a lot happened. If you can just share that part of the book as an anecdote, please, if you can share it with the audience, because I don't think anybody here would realize that, how severe that issue was.
So in the morning, he wakes up early morning and he says he has this pain in the back, and he just said to put Volini and he wants to lie down. I said, no, you're not lying down and I'm not putting Volini. I just grabbed some money and cards, and I literally, took him with the help of my help, took him down, and I didn't want to wake up anybody, the neighbors, the driver, because it was early, because I somehow felt it was an intuition, that a wife has probably, or it was God's grace, that I knew I just had about 25 minutes to save him. That's it. So I just ran on the road, and I, stopped a, taxi, and I just pushed him in the taxi, because I said, if I drive in this state of mind, I don't know if I could drive well. And I wanted to take a taxi because on the way I rang up the doctors. So I needed, time for doing all that. And so when we reached, plus I didn't want to, start parking, because I knew I didn't have time for all that. I just needed to, take him out and, to the OPD. And the doctors, arrived there in time, because I could phone them and, tell them it was all God's grace. And when they wheeled him in straight away into the operation theatre, they called me in immediately in about, just a few minutes, in 3-4 minutes, 5 minutes, and they took me into the operation theatre, and they locked the door. And I said, and I saw their faces, they were like grey and really dead serious. So I said, tell me, I'm, ready to face whatever you have to tell me. I'm strong enough, tell me. So they said, he doesn't have any blockages. He's just got this thing called a widowmaker's clot. Now, I had no clue, but just that word, I said, what is that? It sounds deadly. So they said, there's this main thick artery, and there's a bigger size clot than the artery, which is trying to, cut through the artery, and very soon, so that's why the person doesn't have time, and it's instant death, So I said, so now what do you want to do? So they said, you were very fast in bringing him here, so we've got time on our side. Okay, not too much, but there's something, if we blast we'll try and blast. There are just like 15 to 20% chances of him surviving. I said, that's a great amount of chances, 20%. So you can go ahead and, do it. So he said, but for 2 days he'll have to lie totally still so that the blasting can work, They wanted to blast the, clot into little smithereens so that it doesn't start, breaking the artery anymore. And then we had little time after that. So I had a friend who was the CEO of this hospital where we were in, and so he said, I think we'll need to do a bypass, and the best doctor is Dr. Bhattacharya, but so I said, look, I don't know him. He said, so I said, who's going to bell the cat? So he said, okay, I know him, and I know he'll never say no to me. And so we, then finally went ahead and shifted him to Breach Candy, which was another big fight, because Hinduja wanted to save him, and Breach Candy wanted to save him. He's a celebrity, so there was this big fat. Anyway, just to cut that short, we finally won and took him to, Breach Candy, and so all the doctors came in and saw him, and then the rest is history. But at the end of it, they said, have you thanked the person who saved you? So, yes, so he said no. So they said, well, you better do it. So he was wondering who to thank. And they said, your wife. So then he just turned around and, thanked me. But I became very popular in Breach Canyon Hinduja. And they would all come up to me and say, कौन है वो जिसने अपने पति को बचाया? कौन है वो जिसने? So everybody wanted to get an introduction to this person जिसने अपने पति को बचाया.
Sorry, I sucked the air out of the room with that. But thank you for sharing that in such a nice way. I thought it would be incomplete to talk about the book, and both the books have so many anecdotes, but we just don't have enough time to jump into that. But I know a lot of my media friends are also here, so I just wanted to know, Antipuri sir, at this point, you were running the bank, you've done that. I don't want to go into the same old stories about startup bank, 1994, all of that. Two questions. First, how are you sitting at home at this point? As in, after having lived that active a life, how are you sitting at home? And second, is it possible to do an HDFC bank kind of bank again at this point of time in this environment today? So I'm just asking you two questions because limited time.
Of course it's possible. I'd be stupid if I tried to do it. You got to live life as well. Remember that when you talk work-life balance, एक गधा मजूरी करता रहेगा तो कैसा चलेगा यार, थोड़ा life भी तो enjoy करने का है. So let's be very clear. Your second is, what do I do at home?
How are you managing to?
I think she'll answer it better. I'll tell you one thing. When I was retiring and Amrita is here, the person who was most concerned about my retirement was my darling wife. Because she said, what am I going to do with this guy at home? And that I only found out when I told my son in Singapore, I think my term has been extended. So mommy will be very happy. So I think I'll let her state whether I haven't been a pain, no?
So, because of COVID, we had already, prior to his retirement, we had already got used to having him home, as you all have, been through the same. All the wives have, had this experience of having their husbands at home. So luckily, it was the same. It just continued, like from COVID having him home and now retirement having him home. So it was very easy because of that.
You have the conclusion that you actually talk about. That's why I got you your glasses, because I thought that encapsulates what Puri sir is actually doing at this point of time.
The last conclusion.
It's a short conclusion. I promise you I'm not making her read a chapter over here.
So this is, no. So this is the conclusion about him, how Aditya has smoothly moved on to the next chapter of his life, and I'm so happy to see him passionately pursue his dreams of providing quality, affordable healthcare across the length and breadth of the country, providing credit to the underprivileged, and the benefits of technology to reduce disparity and environment protection. He's loving the time he can spend with the family and the time he now has to do everything from playing golf to traveling and listening to music. As Omar Khayyam says, a book of verses underneath the bough, a flask of wine and a loaf of bread and thou beside me, singing in the wilderness, and wilderness is paradise now. This is from Omar Khayyam, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam.
आप अभी वर्कर क्लास को आपको अभी आप वर्कर क्लास में हो तो अरिस्टोक्रेट क्लास नहीं समझ आएगा. हम अपने टाइम पर अपना मर्जी करता है, and I have no regrets.
My friends out there would want a headline. If you could just share what you're currently doing, what you want to be doing right now. Do it for my friends, no? All of us need a headline for tomorrow.
There's no headline. The reality is, yes, I can't sit at home. But there are a lot of things that I've been passionate about, which I will do. And there are a lot of things that I wanted to enjoy. So first let me talk about the enjoyment. I want to play golf. I want to trek, I want to read books, I want to travel, listen to music. all of that, including, some of my friends are very fond of it, so you can sit. The other day, we were sitting till 3 o'clock. So that's very enjoyable. But I've always been passionate about saving the environment. A lot of people talk. I think I did contribute a bit. And now we're working with, I think we have some people from HDFC Bank here, Ashima and all. We said we need to plant a whole lot of trees in Bombay. And then they said, where? And it turned out my friend was chairman Bombay Port Trust. So we're going to plant some 2 or 3 million trees. I think Ashima has put in a lot of work. I, as usual, only did the delegation. We're working with the forest department to get the Sayadri range declared as, we've reached a conservation. We want it to be free, but the developer lobby is against that. I'm working with the Institute of Management in Ahmedabad. That technology, as we see it, much like the rest of the world, actually has benefited only the rich. If everything you do is only on a smartphone, that's ridiculous. You've eliminated half of humanity. So you must get it down to a feature film, and I think the fellow who's been a pioneer in this is Nandan Nilekani. So if you take the RuPay card and you take the stack that's put in, today, and a lot of people say, what did this government do? They conceptualized and brought technology and finance to come to inclusive and sustainable growth. So that's the passion. I like to listen to all kinds of music. I like to have a single malt with my friend Tamal. What he hasn't said, he was also instrumental in egging my wife on to write the book. Yeah, so he says, so I said, kya karegi likh ke? So this fellow, he says, no wife has ever written on the CEO. And the first reaction I got on the book was, you must be a very brave man, letting you write a book on you. Second one was, my wife won't write 2.5 pages on you. So I don't know what these 200 pages are going to do. The third one, I think she referred to, I'm the boss at home, the gloves change hands. So actually I was not a brave man, I was a punched up man, and that's how it came about. I hope I've given it right.
Okay, I'm out of time, but I'm just going to ask both Aditya sir and Tamal sir to talk about the books, but I want you to talk about his book, because I loved what the video you had done about his book. If you could just say what you said about his book, and then I'll have Tamal get the last word in about the book that ma'am has written.
So we were sitting and having a drink together, and Tamal says, will you say something about the book? And then he comes up with this phone. So all of a sudden, out of the blue, it came out pretty spontaneously. So I said, fundamentally, Tamal, you're a great writer, but I didn't know you were what you asked. You were so investigative that you reached into everybody's bedroom and bathroom, and there's one time I'm very thankful that I have only 3 pages in the book. I said, I'm very thankful that you never caught me with my pants down. But that said, you have a hell of a lot of guts to come out with something that everybody knew, but nobody puts out in writing. So you come up in my esteem as a great writer, the new Sherlock Holmes, and somebody who can express it right.
Lovely. And Tamalda?
Hey, very brief. I think, as I said, as Mr. Puri himself said that, I think a wife writing about a husband, successful or unsuccessful, whatever it is, I have not come across any such book. I am not a person who reads too much, so probably there are, but in India I am not very sure about it. So people talk about Aditya Puri, work-life balance, not wearing watch, not carrying mobile phone, that's leaving office at 5:30, coming home for lunch, etc., etc. But these are all through the prism of his office colleagues we get to know. But here is through the prism of his wife. So that's it. That's it. There's a naughty side to it. Once you read it, he goes for he's going for a painting, Rajasthani painting, not for the painting, but for the frame. Okay, that's Aditya Puri. So those anecdotes are there that shows the naughty side of him. But but all this, the millennials and the generations and the new generation, they are talking about work-life balance, Friday evening switch off, Saturday, Sunday, you can't call me. This is what our children talk about that. But this gentleman, 70 plus, he had done it 35, 40, 45 years back. So I think that's a great learning. Every banker here must read that, and also ask your spouse also to read it. So that's quite fascinating. I find that this work-life balance, seeing from the family. So Aditya Puri has a father, has a grandfather, and as a husband, and also the romance bit. You never discuss that. That also you figure out the romance. The person who talks about laddu dikha, all about money, but how he was smitten by this lady only after seeing once, and looking for her for years till they actually met and get married. So that romance part also, it's very interesting, very different. All bankers should read it. Thank you.
Okay. I feel very guilty that because of the limited time, and I've already used up 5 extra minutes here, but because of the limited time, I've actually had to sacrifice the anecdotes. Okay? And you know what's the funniest thing? I met my wife exactly the same way. Then I asked her to marry me the next time I met her. Exactly. So when I was reading that, I was like, okay, this has happened before. Okay. Anyways, there was so much I had to ask both of you all about various anecdotes in the book, but I'm going to pause now because there are other speakers here. Mundra Saab is there, Khara Saab is there, and you all are waiting to hear them also. Thank you so much, and thank you Anand Rathi and the team, Anand Rathi group and the team here who enabled us to do this. I just wish we had a little more time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm going to request you, sir, ma'am, to please stay back on stage, and I'd like to invite Mrs. Supriya Rathi and Mrs. Preeti to please join us on stage. We will first capture this moment and freeze it in time. So let's take a quick group photograph. Photographer, sir, on standby. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a big round of applause for precisely the reason being that I think this was a panel that spoke honesty and stories that we now know. So thank you very much for that. And I'd now like to request you, ma'am, to please stay with me. We have a token of our extreme gratitude for Mr. Aditya Puri, Mrs. Puri, for Tamal sir. Can we have the mementos on stage, please? Thank you so much. Thank you. Vijay, on behalf of all of us, thank you for asking some very pertinent questions and bringing out those stories. that note, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming on stage our guest of honor and chairman of the nation's largest bank, State Bank of India, Mr. Dinesh Khara, who will be joined by our chief guest and an eminent figure, as we all know, in the world of finance, Mr. S.S. Mundra. I'd also like to invite Mr. Anand Rathi and co-founder and vice chairman of the Anand Rathi Group, Mr. Pradeep Gupta, requesting you to please join us on stage and please take a seat, gentlemen. It's time to hear from our guest of honor and our chief guest. It's my pleasure to invite to address us all a seasoned banking professional with, as all of us know in the room, what a remarkable career spanning several key roles within the organizations. With extensive experience and expertise across all facets of banking, including global operations, subsidiaries, and risk management, here is someone who has consistently exhibited exemplary leadership and successfully led significant initiatives such as the merger of associate banks. A distinguished scholar, his passion for leveraging analytics and even technology in the banking sector underscores his commitment to simplifying financial services and also expanding access to banking for the nation and for all Indians. Let's invite to the podium with a big round of applause, Mr. Dinesh Khara.
Thank you very much. Very good evening to all of you. And my sincere thanks for giving an opportunity to us after such an interesting talk, both for about Mr. Puri and as well as about Tamalda. Well, I had an opportunity of reading 2 books in quick succession, which normally is a rarity to find the time for such interesting reads. When I had an opportunity of reading Tamalda's book, the thought which crossed my mind, it is, he claims it to be non-fiction, but is it really a non-fiction? Because the kind of things which he has talked about in that book, it was quite unbelievable to believe that it is a non-fiction. So that is something which was my first reaction after going through the book. But interestingly, he has tried to go beyond what is the edifice on the face of it in terms of deciding the monetary policies of the country by various central bankers, and what all really go into their mind while they are taking decision. I think it is perhaps beyond their comprehension also at times. I'm sure they would also have been enlightened after looking at Tamalda's book. The other piece which I also felt that I must talk about is that he has known to author 7 very serious books relating to non-fiction, but also he is an author of a Bengali poem book too. So that is actually a rare side of Tamalda, which perhaps may not be known to many. I think what he described in terms of trust is something which is the foundation for the kind of relationship which he enjoys with across the spectrum. There is so much to learn for everybody in terms of how to cultivate that trust, and more so in the today's world, everything is becoming transactional. So in that kind of a transactional world, what all trust can reap is something which is very clearly evident from what we see in him. When it comes to Mr. Aditya Puri, of course, he is a legend in the banking. I never had an opportunity of meeting him in person, and today is, of course, I confess that today is my first day when I met him in person. But I have seen him from a distance for a good part of my career. And some of my friends from the bank also, when they moved on to HDFC, and when I used to interact with them to ascertain what is the difference between HDFC and the State Bank, one message was very clear, which was very popularly known here, kya laddu kya hai? So which eventually is nothing but the bottom line. So I think that is something which has made a difference, and perhaps, if at all I can recall, in his term he has declared every year, every quarter, 20-year plus profit, which is a record in many respects. I think it is this, he has been a teacher to many, which we very fondly recollect and acknowledge. But this book, which when I got to have a chance of looking into this book, I must acknowledge the very candid description given by Mrs. Puri. And in many respects, when it is being talked about that changed 17 homes, we in public sector banks only felt that we changed 17 homes and 20 homes. But it was more of an insight to know that banker like Mr. Puri also had an opportunity, and the kids also had an opportunity to move to those 17 homes. But yes, of course, his eye for looking at opportunities is something which actually I noticed, and that is something when he went to Run of Kutch, and there he was trying to figure out that what can be done for the artisan who is trying to sell the artifacts by offering a POS machine to him. So I think that is a very clear reflection of his mindset, and actually nothing but a DNA of a banker, true banker, who has tried to create value for whosoever he met on the street, and at the same time a value for the organization whom he served with so much of passion. Not many people get an opportunity of building an organization, and he has actually built up HDFC, and he has built up HDFC in a manner which perhaps during those days was not easy. So it is a very clear reflection of his sound principle, ethics, and also ability to lead and demonstrate the confidence and conviction to a large group of people, so that they also shared his dream and created the organization. I think it is not an easy job. Salute to you, sir. Thank you. And on the top of it, when I was trying to read him as a person and observed that the DNA comes from the family, and that family which was strict disciplinarian. So that discipline which he got in his childhood, he replicated in his work life. He replicated in his post-work life also. The way he is still passionate in terms of creating value for the society, reaching out technology to those who have not experienced. I think it is nothing but the passion, conviction, and the confidence. And also having the interest of the common man at his heart. to me, it is both the books I could relate very well, because as I said with Mr. Tamalda, a person who has enjoyed the trust and who is candid and who is respected. Similarly, as with Mr. Puri, a disciplinarian at heart by training, who has practiced, who had the conviction of doing what he did. I take this opportunity to thank Mrs. Puri for authoring this book, and also to Tamalda for bringing the lighter side of the actual banker's life, who are known to be boring. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kara, for addressing us. Sorry. Yes, sir.
So he's not mentioned. I was the first to send him a message saying, Dinesh Saab, I've been watching State Bank for a long time, but you're the first guy who's made the potential a reality. And I think he deserves the unbelievable applause, because it's all right to say once started, yes, I may have had my achievements of my own, but having dealt with the public sector, knowing the constraints, what he has done, and he was very gracious to thank me, and I think you will be one of the people who will bring the bank in the limelight.
Thank you very much.
Well, this is what this evening is about, honest conversations. So now let's take this enthusiasm forward, and please join me in inviting to the podium our chief guest, who throughout his illustrious banking career spanning over 4 decades has held pivotal positions including Chairman and Managing Director of Bank of Baroda, Executive Director of Union Bank of India, and Deputy Governor of Reserve Bank of India. Renowned for his expertise, he has served on esteemed boards and advisory committees, playing an integral role in companies such as India Bulls Housing Finance Limited, BSE India Limited, and Airtel Payments Bank Limited. We all know with his extensive knowledge, he has delivered over 100 speeches at domestic and international forums, covering a wide range of subjects, and of course has earned the recognition such as a doctorate of philosophy from the Amity University for his exceptional contributions to the banking industry of our country. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Mr. Mundra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Looking to the constraint of time, I would avoid addressing anyone individually, though there is a long list to do so. I also know that being a last speaker, you have 2 challenges. First challenge is, most of the things which you wanted to speak have already been spoken by someone or other in one way or other. And the second equally daunting challenge is that you are standing between the audience and the dinner. But let me tell you, using my past regulatory privilege, I have issued the instructions that dinner would not be announced open till I give my nod for it. So be prepared for it. Anyway, later when apart, I think let me start with congratulating Shri Anand Rathi and the entire Anand Rathi group on this fabulous journey of 30 years, steady progress, investor service, and today where we are, as he mentioned in his opening address, and I think many more years to come. As far as I know, Anandji was the first CA from the city of Jodhpur, if I am not wrong. And then after his corporate journey, as he mentioned, he became an independent professional in Mumbai. He had been mentor to many chartered accountants besides whatever he has been doing. And as a result, I think today in Mumbai CA fraternity, there is a Jodhpur club. And Jodhpur is now known as the CA capital of India. So very well done. Congratulations and all the best wishes. Now coming to books, I think much has been spoken about it. These books are not technical. These books are non-fiction, but more interesting than fiction. And that is the overall, flow of the things. So today I am also in a literary vein. I would not talk about anything technical. I will not talk about the economy, credit, liquidity, interest rate, exchange rate, NPA, credit growth, whatever it is, normally what we are trained to speak. But I think I will like to take in different vein. But first I read both the books. When I was reflecting, one thing which came to my mind, I felt like connecting it to two epics of our country. I said, the Tamal Das book, Roller Coaster, is more like Mahabharata. So many characters, so many scheming, so many things are happening. And he, like a Sanjay, is watching it from a distance and then conveying the whole Mahabharata story. Only difference is that audience are not all Dhritarashtra. Sanjay unfortunately had single audience of Dhritarashtra, but his audience is not of Dhritarashtra. And if some Dhritarashtra happens to be there, at least their eyes will be open with that. So that was the difference. But when I come to Ismailiji's books, so I say it is more like Ramayana, devoted to a central character. So this is Mahabharata, this is Ramayana. And then, once you get in that vein, you can keep on then extending the analogy further. See, Ramayana, everything is great. Only a lot of criticism comes to Ram for that final Agni Pariksha of Sita. So when I say, if you say Ramayana, how? But I think in the modern way, in today's style, Aditya also took the Agni Pariksha of Ismailiji in whatever he just mentioned about the last episode about this cardiac and all that. I think this was nothing less than Agni Pariksha for her. So that has also happened in this Ramayana. Anyway, as I mentioned, normally we talk about this event and the books, the banking event and all that. Both the books are telling us about the bankers behind the, whatever happens, the movers and shakers of banking industry. And I was reminded of a very beautiful Urdu couplet. This couplet says, जो साज से निकली धुन वो सबने सुनी है, जो साज से निकली धुन वो सबने सुनी है, जो तार पे गुजरी है वो किसको पता है. So I think both the books tell about तार पे क्या गुजरी है, what happens on the string. We only listen to the tune which comes from the instrument. Well, anyway, coming to both the books very briefly, I understand time, we are running short of time. When we come to roller coaster, of course, several anecdotes have already been told, you have heard about it. But you also derive some of the very important lessons in banking from that. Everyone has been hearing that half part of Aditya's dialogue, Laddu kahan hai? Actually, the full dialogue is, full context of that which is given in the book is like this. Normally it happens in the banking, in any industry, people will be showing you very high class, beautifully done PPTs with very technology terms, quite, half of this we will not understand. So what was the context that like some of the colleagues will be some new project, some new idea, they will prepare a beautiful PPT with lot of jargons and present to him. And he will very coolly say, यार ये तेरी ऊंची इंग्लिश मेरे को समझ नहीं आती, मुझे तो बता कि लड्डू कहाँ है. That is what the context is there. There is a lesson to it. Be focused. Ultimately, be focused on what, after all, you are deriving from whatever you are doing. Similarly, there was an interesting thing about Uday Kotak. Very simple mathematics, that if you have 10% more capital than regulatory requirement, but if your 10% of your loan are going bad, then despite that 10% extra capital, your bank will go belly up. That is a simple point. risk, pricing the risk. There are several such things. I won't go into that. But little bit of RBI also, because I had been a part of RBI. And what I found that Subba Rao, before taking over, he went to meet Manmohan Singh ji, who was the Prime Minister. And Manmohan Singh gave him advice that, there is always a risk of you are losing touch with reality once you go to RBI. And I think I can say it was a very profound advice, having remained in RBI. But then I thought there is equally another risk, other extreme of it, that if you try to get too much in touch with reality, then probably you also run the risk of losing touch with the central banking, as we have seen. We have seen some of those examples. I know this is not the forum, but since I read the book in detail, and some of this Vijay also asked Tamal, but I have certain, grievance, which I must say, despite whatever explanation, a very lengthy explanation is given in reply to Vijay's question, but I think there is a bias toward the public sector bank. There are, certain mentions about public sector banks, but more kind of sometimes sarcastic, sometimes making a mockery of them. Having remained a public sector banker for entire my life, I would say, yes, there are realities, there are short tenures, there are institutional constraints, there are bindings. In fact, sometimes I say public sector, we as a public sector banks are kind of participating in the race with other people with our hands tied behind. So that is the kind of situation it is there. I am sure that despite short tenure of people, you would still find that there are characters who can deserve comment in little greater than this. And of course, State Bank is an exception because there is a continuity of leadership, and there had been period when there had been a reasonable tenure of the CEOs. But I think what Tamal said in reply, public sector banks are more in black and white, and I think then it becomes a little not boring because it's the time of colorful. So that is why maybe black and white is little out of fashion. But on even a larger scale, there had always been, and I'll just take 5 minutes because this is important to talk about it at this forum. Post 2008 to 2012-13 period, and then what we know what happened, and the stress in banking sector and piling up of NPA and all that. So while so many things are correct, but many times it is said that public sector bank decided to do something which they didn't understand. They didn't have the skill, and that is what created this mess. I won't go into the, that will be a very long discourse that what was the background. There was a flux of liquidity, infrastructure sector was recently opened up, public sector bankers, CEOs had the short tenure, they didn't have the branch network to really drive the retail banking. So AGS course was to do this great opportunity is coming and do wholesale banking from the central office level and all that. All situation was there. Forget all that. I would say public sector banks maybe even say committed that mistake, but I think there were notable names in the private sector who did the same thing. Same kind of loans, same kind of tickets. It didn't become visible. Why? Because they had two advantages. They had the advantage of capital cushion. They had the opportunity to raise the capital opportunistically, which public sector bank didn't have. So while both the sides realized the problem, but they had the capital and they had the freedom to use this capital to clean the book, which public sector banks couldn't do. And of course, there was a constraint of short tenure. You leave it for the next generation. I think that is what made the difference. So while I accept the criticism of public sector bankers, I don't say that everything is fine, but let us not make it a one-way traffic. Let's present both the side of picture and let us also appreciate the constraint and reality of the situation. Sorry, I don't want to make this forum a debate forum. We are gathered here for talking about the two beautiful books, but I think it was important in the context. Second thing, even when I come to private sector, and if you read the book, Tamaldar's book, you will find, journey of few people who started very well, but somewhere during the journey, I think they digressed, and we know what all happened. I think this happens, number one, when individuals start thinking that they are bigger than the institution. The problem comes. And at some point of time, greed and ambition, I think, overtakes everything, and that is what has happened in some of the instances, as we know. But I had promised that it will keep literary. So, why it happens? If I have to really say, I remember two beautiful couplets from Rahat Indori in one of his ghazal, and he said, अगर आग लगेगी तो कई घर आएंगे जद में, आग लगेगी तो कई घर आएंगे जद में, सिर्फ तुम्हारा मकान थोड़ी है. और दूसरा जो शेर है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि आज जो साहिब मसनद हैं वो कल नहीं होंगे, आज जो साहिब मसनद है वो कल नहीं होंगे, किराएदार हैं जाति मकान थोड़ी है. So when people forget that they are the custodian, as a banker particularly, they are custodian and they are not the owner, then those problem comes. Anyway, I'll come to quickly to Aditya Nama. It will not be, fair. Again, I would only say this is a book which is written by Dimag, and this is a book which is written by Dil. This is a Dil se book. But again, keeping my promise, when I read the entire book and I thought how to summarize it, so again I was reminded of two again beautiful shares from a ghazal. And this says, and this is how this I think captures Aditya's personality in very well, कि जिस दिन से चला हूँ मंजिल पे नजर है, जिस दिन से चला हूँ, you are finding a difficulty? जिस दिन से चला हूँ मंजिल पे नजर है, इन आँखों ने कभी मील का पत्थर नहीं देखा. जिस दिन से चला हूँ मंजिल पे नजर है, इन आँखों ने कभी मील का पत्थर नहीं देखा, और पत्थर मुझे कहता है मेरा चाहने वाला, मैं मोम हूँ इसने मुझे छूकर नहीं देखा. I think this is what captures Adit's personality very well. But it makes really interesting reading right from the time when, I went through it, and so many things we felt nostalgic. You have 19 places. In our career, we had 21. So not much difference. Not much difference. Now, hopefully, 21st should be the permanent. But like when you wrote about the first home and trying to, decorate, facing the problem, windows are big, how to get the curtains. Banks, when you are in career, banks give you great houses, but without anything else. And your salary is small, house is big, how to furnish it becomes a problem. Actually, we became nostalgic. We had the same kind of problem early in our career. It was very nostalgic. And then Aditya complaining to mother that all my, colleagues, they have high connections and you have no connection, what you have done for me. And she said, I have the highest connection. At right point of time, I will mention that. And what was that highest connection? That highest connection was the God. So these are the, these are the things which really make a person, which give a direction. So again, there could be so many things, but I would only say both the books eminently readable. They, apart from the interesting anecdotes and some of the humor, but they have very profound messages for the people, and I will strongly urge everyone to read it, pick up the relevant point, and some of them can be guiding principle for life. Thank you once again, Rathiji, for inviting me, for both the authors, for providing such a interesting reading to us, and a central character who is appearing both the books for him to make it so interesting. Thank you very much and all the best.
Mr. Mundra, thank you so much. मैं यही कहूँगी कि आपने तो बिल्कुल समा बांध लिया है यहाँ पे. And even though you were thinking you're between us and dinner, you actually gave us a lot of food for thought and action. So thank you very much. Can we have a huge round of applause for our honorable dignitaries on stage? Mr. Rathi and Mr. Gupta, I'd like to request you to kindly present a token of our gratitude to Mr. Khara and Mr. Mundra. But before that, let's quickly capture a group photograph. So request you all to please come together. Mr. Rathi and Mr. Gupta, I'd like to request you to kindly present a token of our appreciation to Mr. Khara and Mr. Mundra. Can we have the mementos on stage? Thank you very much, Mr. Khara and Mr. Mundra. Please take your seats, sirs, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Mr. Khara. And as we come to the formal closure of this splendid evening, I would like to invite on stage, back again on stage actually, that individual who is the fuel that runs this well-oiled Anand Rathi group family across India. With an entrepreneurial journey that began in the textile industry, he transitioned into the financial realm, co-founding the Anand Rathi group, widely recognized as a trusted advisor. His insightful perspectives are sought after both in the media and industry forums, while the Anand Rathi Group has earned numerous prestigious awards under his leadership. I'd like to invite him forward to present the vote of thanks. Mr. Gupta, requesting you to please join me.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What an extraordinary evening, and I think so many things we learned out of this talk, and so many words which we got, so many wisdom which we got from Mundra ji and Mr. Khara. As we bring this evening to close, I stand before you filled with gratitude and joy. It is my honor to address this distinguished gathering. This evening has been a testament to the unwavering dedication and support of each and every one of you as bestowed upon us for the last 3 decades, and on behalf of Anand Rathi family, I thank you all. First and foremost, I want to express my gratitude to our distinguished guest, Shri S.S. Mundra ji, Chairman BSE Limited and former Deputy Governor, RBI, along with Shri Dinesh ji Khara, Chairman State Bank of India, who have taken time out of this, their hectic schedule to grace us with their presence. Sirs, your wisdom, insight, and passion for the banking and finance sector have captivated our minds and ignited our imaginations. Your contribution have shed light on the transformative potential of BFSI sector, and we are truly grateful for you for your presence here today with us. I would also like to express heartfelt gratitude to Sri Aditya Puri ji and to Anita Puri ji, Madam Smiley. Ma'am, many congratulations on release of Aditya Nama. As you all witnessed, Aditya Nama offers an exclusive look into the fire of legendary banker Sri Aditya Puri ji's life through the eyes of his better half, Srimati Anita ji, known as Smiley Puri. Everyone knows Mr. Puri in the world of finance, but very little is known about the man behind those billion-dollar deals and ideas that revolutionized India's private banking sector. The book is about discovering stories and revealing Aditya ji's sense of humor, his love for food, and witty pranks. His management style and commitment to family and friends, some that we also witnessed to his book. I would also like to express my heartiest congratulations to Sri Tamal Bandyopadhyay for Roller Coaster, an affair with banking. Roller Coaster is a string of stories and revelations from the country's foremost banking journalist, affair with banking industry. The book brings to light the lives of India's commercial and central bankers. It's about their personas and interesting habits, how they are as leaders, how they evolve, and how they change the culture and ethos of Indian banking sector. Book goes beyond debit and credit transactions to uncover and untold stories. I would also like to acknowledge the magnificent creation of both the authors who have poured their heart and soul to bring up various facets of financial results of BFSI sectors. Thanks a lot for sharing your stories and leaving an indelible mark on our lives. Mr. Bijay Adichiri, thank you for your moderating this conversation and aptly bringing out facts and instances which these two authors have beautifully treasured in their respective books. My gratitude to Mrs. Rita Bandyopadhyay, ma'am, who has graciously depicted and performed the Saraswati and Ganesh Vandana and began this magnificent event. Her sweet voice has touched our hearts. My gratitude to Papa, Shri Anand Rathi, the group chairman of Anand Rathi Group of Companies, for germinating idea of this event, which is so apt for all of us to learn more intricacies on banking and financial sector, along with to learn about different facets of various stalwarts who are shaping this sector for our country. What other way can be to enter the 30th year of Anand Rathi family? About 30 years ago, a vision was born, a vision to create an organization that would not only cater to the financial aspirations, but also serve as catalyst for personal growth, success, and lasting impact. As we look back on our journey, it fills us with immense pride to see how far we have come, and it is all thanks to our trust and our unwavering partnerships. Tonight, we also celebrate the remarkable individuals who have been the heart and soul of our organization. Our 3,800 plus family members comprise of brightest minds and the most passionate professionals have dedicated their expertise and energy, their unwavering commitment in the reason we can stand here today, celebrating almost 3 decades of excellence. I would also like to extend my appreciation to our dedicated colleagues, managing team, including Preeti Gupta and Supriya Rathi, Jugal Mantri, Nikesh Surana, Devang Mehta, Menal Shah, Abhishek Rathi, and all the team members. Then, of course, MC Ms. Zenia Fernandez, and from the event management team, Umesh Sawant and all the team members, and Hotel Taj for the arrangements of this function. In closing, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for being here tonight. Your trust and support have been bedrock of our success as we embark on the next chapter of our organization. We do so with unwavering commitment in moving forward with excellence, innovation, and dedication. To the next 30 years and beyond, may our partnership continue to flourish, our dreams continue to soar, and our impact continue to resonate throughout the world. Thank you from the depth of my heart for being a part of this incredible celebration. Cheers to 30 years of success and to future filled with endless possibilities. Thank you once again. May I now request all of you to please join us for cocktail and dinner. And we have organized copies of this Adityanama and roller coaster for all of you for reading at your home, at your leisure. Please collect them while leaving after dinner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta. And finally, once again, thank you everybody for being present here this evening. It is very encouraging, supportive, and is a testament of our trust. And as you join us for drinks and dinner, it is my pleasure to invite on stage Sriram Sampath, also known as Flutewala. Mostly self-taught, he plays the Indian bamboo, the flute, the bansuri, and ethnic flutes and woodwinds from around the world, and has collaborated with path-breaking artists from around the world. He will be accompanied on keyboard by pianist and composer Sasmita Rudra, one of Bollywood's most sought-after accompanists. I'm Zina Fernandez signing off. Have a phenomenal night. Thank you.